and the power of J Skull.
Welcome, guys. It's another week, and we're delving into another series. Of course, with me is the multi-talented, and as you can hear, vocally, what was it? I was going to say inspired, but we'll come up with something. Anyway, it's the Best Friend Squad. It's Jason.
Best Friend Squad.
Well, what a delight! If you've been watching the show last week, we had a special guest on, and at the end of it, we were talking about what we were going to watch next week, and this show came up. And I got to say, Jason, I felt both you and Brand were like, now look, it's different. Like, you were kind of prepping me, almost like going, don't judge it on its animation. Like, just give it a chance, which already puts me on the back foot when I'm going to go watch it. And I'm like, all right, what have these guys got me lined up for?
It's the girly one.
It's, oh, God, man. And I got to be honest with you, I watched the first 2 episodes, then 3 episodes, then 4 episodes, because it wasn't even 24 hours, was it, when I'm sending you a text, Jason, going, holy shit, the writing in this show.
It's amazing.
This is a step up. This is a step up. So I've let the cat out of the bag. I think I might have found my favorite currently thing we've watched so far.
I told you.
In the Master of the Universe.
I told you, I'm a big fan of the original. I'm a big fan of Revelations. I'm a big fan of the He-Man reboot. I'm a big fan of 2002. I love She-Ra. The New Adventures of He-Man exists. This one, though, is just outstanding, and it gets even more outstandinger as it goes on. The writing gets deeper, the stakes get higher, it goes beyond good and evil, and people make alliances you don't expect, and friendships fall apart that you don't expect, and there's consequences to actions, and it's just, this is next level, He-Man Masterverse, whatever you want to call it. It's the best one, and I will gladly die on that hill if you think you can take me.
Well, like I said, I've seen the basics, right? I've seen, and what we're going to be talking about tonight is the first 2-parter called The Sword.
And we can go ahead and go to like the first 2 after that, because I kind of lost control. I love this show so much.
You know what? Let's just get straight into the synopsis, at least of the first film. We'll start there, all right? So we've got The Sword, Part 1 and Part 2. On the planet Etheria, Adora, a young captain of the Horde, discovers a hidden sword that seems strangely meant for her. While a captive of the rebels, Adora has a series of shattering revelations that leads her to a fundamental moral choice. Very simple synopsis. And you know what? In a way, the plot is fairly simple. Like,
it is, yes.
This isn't a... what was the one we watched where it was so convoluted? It was really tough to follow. I think it may even been the first.
I think the first She-Ra that the plot was just going like this the entire time in 30-minute segments.
Yes, so it was very hard to kind of follow at some points, but I felt this was very simple to follow, and there's a good reason for it. It's because the character development is so strong.
Yes,
because in the first 10 minutes, I'm getting to understand not only who Adora is as a character, but what her circumstances are, her emotional issues are, the emotional stakes of what's going on. And that's fantastic writing straight off the bat.
Yes,
and the same with Catra.
Catra, yes.
And Catra. So that straight off the bat. Great writing.
Catra is one of those characters as the show goes on, you sympathize with her, then you hate her, and then you sympathize with her again, and then you feel really sorry for her, and then you hate her again. And she's just such a dynamic, wonderful character. But every single decision she makes, you understand why. And you understand why she's done it, and why she is this spiteful, self-destructive person who's just looking for affirmation. And that's all she wants, is just somebody to tell her, you are a valued person, or cat. I don't know what she, a person, cat person. She, just somebody tell her that she's good, and then she will stop being so evil.
And they really explain that very well in a short little 1 or 2 lines between her and Shadow Weaver.
Absolutely.
It establishes that straight off the bat.
Shadow Weaver's like the absolute worst person to raise a child.
I love this
I
version.
I love you, Shadow
Love this
Weaver.
version
Be
of
quiet,
Shadow Weaver.
child.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you actually Shadow Weaver becomes this amazing character as well, to the point that by the end of the series, you're just like, wow, I have misjudged this person so
What?
severely. Yes. Yes, I don't want to spoil anything, but
Okay.
she has this final moment, and she just gives a look, and you're just like, okay, I was wrong this entire series. She, there's something to her that I didn't see there.
Oh, by the way, you know how you kind of meant, we start off and you said about the character, like, you're a bit worried about what I think of the animation style. I love it. I really like it.
It's
I
different.
love the angular kind of look. It is anime inspired, but you could feel the influence, the American influence all over it.
Absolutely, and it's nice. I like it. It's more simplistic. It's kind of a departure from everything we've seen so far. I'll be honest. The first time I saw the She-Ra costume, I thought it looked silly. I don't know. I think
look
it's
at it in comparison.
it's the shorts under the skirt, I think, is what does it. That's just the one thing that bothers me. All the rest of it's fine. And the costume goes through an evolution throughout the series, to the point that the last version you see is completely different than the first. And
cool.
It gets better, I think. Yeah.
Cool. Shadow Weaver, her design.
Her
Love.
design's amazing. Just the
Love
hair
that
flowing
design,
up into
isn't
the
it?
air. She just looks so
Yeah.
so dangerous, and her costume undergoes some changes as well, and it's always because of, I would like to think, the shattering of her status in the show, and where she has to kind of put herself back together, and her costume kind of deteriorates as the show goes on, and it's really kind of neat.
That is very cool. Apparently, this was only ever proposed to Netflix as a one-season show. But literally, once they pitched it, this is what I was reading, it expanded to this giant multi-season story, which they apparently had mapped out fairly early on.
Yes, and
Again,
I completely believe it.
Lucasfilm, take notes. That's what you do with these things. You map them out.
I completely believe it, because the entire series just seemed to have a game plan from the very beginning. And, I honestly think that the series hits its peak probably around the third season finale.
Right.
And everything there is just a slight step down, just very, very slight. But it slides into home base just strong, and it knows when to stop, and it chooses a great time to stop, and it wraps up everything wonderfully. And I think they just did an excellent job with this series.
You know who, as a character, that should have, if not handled correctly, would have come off as so annoying, but because they've done such care with the character,
Choose one.
is Glimmer.
Glimmer, yes.
Especially Glimmer. Like, could have really come off as annoying and way too emotional, and she is, but it is handled with such care and honesty that I'm kind of with her. I understand, again, just like Catra, she's after validation.
Yes, she is. She's after validation, and she is so desperate to get it that, like Catra, she makes these really bad decisions that end up hurting
Poor
people.
decisions. Yes.
But you know what I like most about Glimmer, though? Is that and it's such a strange thing, but I remember watching this show the first time thinking, Glimmer actually looks like a little girl. She does not have, curvy proportions. She's kind of bottom heavy. And I like that it's never brought up in dialogue. It's never used insultingly. There's another character, Spinnerella, who's also very she's plus bodied, and it's never brought up. They're never insulted. It's just, this is how you are, and you're accepted the way you are. And I think that is such a positive message. There are so many positive messages in this show that they do, and they don't bludgeon you over the head with it. It's just there.
Yeah, you're right, and it's very fair to say that. I mean, apparently, and I did a little bit of reading before watching it. That this show's been accused of being woke. Now, what is woke? I mean, you're talking to a couple of massive Star Trek fans. Yeah. We grew up watching progressive television, and this is just progressive television. This is progressive storytelling.
Woke is just there's not enough white men on the show. That's what woke is.
I mean, that's really, that's what you're coming down to, aren't you? Which is, at the end of the day, I mean, this is a show that also if you have your naysayers, I would challenge you to watch this show and go, oh, what it's missing is some white dudes with big muscles.
Yes.
Like, doesn't need it, right? It's the story. You know, He-Man Masters of the Universe, that story requires big men with muscles.
Yes.
You know, because that's the design and the look of the land, and that's the universe. But here it's different. And
I have a dog.
I have zero, like the fact, oh, there's your doggo. There you go.
I have a dog, yes. She's having a
go.
crisis. My daughter just walked in and she doesn't remember who she is yet.
Oh,
It's okay.
Oh, yes,
It's okay.
It's okay. It'll be all right. But yeah, no. What can I say, dude? I was enthralled by this. I was struck at how locked in I was on the journey, and you know the friendship between Catra and Adora. I thought, which is basically the first episode, is so good because the fact that you feel you know that they were friends. And
Yes.
and we've all been through. I think we've all been through this. Where you're friends with somebody, and then your life starts to take a different journey.
Yes.
You start to separate, and it's hard. It's difficult.
It is, and the show deals with lots of themes about toxicity and, you know, just like I said, bad decisions. Because Catra is a toxic person, and at one point, Adora recognizes that, and it's such. It's not just Adora. There's another character. Again, I don't want to spoil anything, but there's another character who's just so pure and so good in this show, and sticks by Catra for so long, and then at one point just looks at her and says, "You're a bad friend."
Yeah.
And it's almost like a stake to the heart. You're just like, wow, even this person doesn't think Catra can be redeemed anymore.
Well, there's that scene where like she's cattle prodding, literally.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Unbelievable. And that's how great the scene was. I don't want to do this. Why are you making me do this? Let's just go home, please. Can we go home?
Yes.
Like she's begging Adora to like not make her do this, and that's the fascinating thing about Catra already is that she's be sociopathic behavior where she's distancing her actions or responsibility for things that she will do that will be bad.
Yes, exactly.
And it's such an interesting character trait to put in. So what is essentially a Saturday morning cartoon design and demographic focus, I would assume, you know, young kids who are up to the ages of 12, 13, I would have thought this would have been their target. Maybe I'm wrong because I bet you this has got a massive adult fan base.
It's got to have a massive adult fan base. And I'm going to go a step further. I don't know who on the writing staff is the psychologist.
Oh,
but one of them's a psychologist, or one of them is a psychologist on speed dial.
They must have, because even I'm walking away from this stuff going, it's making me think about things.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, yeah, absolutely. Also love, we see only a little bit. Actually, I could be lying here. I don't know if we do see him in the first two episodes. The first time we get to see Hordak.
Yeah. We go like 2 or 3 episodes before we see the guy.
And I'm like, oh, he's the CEO.
Yes. And
That's how he's playing it.
Hordak is also dissected in this series eventually. And there's a couple of spots whenever you genuinely feel sorry for him too, and you understand why he's doing what he's doing, because you don't know everything about Hordak yet. Hordak is not what he appears.
It's such an interesting... I'm just so thrilled that they've done this in this format and influence young people about this form of storytelling, because this isn't just black and white villains.
No,
which we all grew up with. This isn't just, you know, run-of-the-mill. This, you know, if you're a good person, everything will just turn out all right all the time. And I love that they're not doing this, because we'll see the impact of this stuff years later. We'll be old men watching movies and going, wow, this is different. I've never seen this before. This is it's all because of smart people at this time taking a chance and making the show. This is how much I rate this cartoon after seeing 4 episodes.
And it gets better. It really does. It gets so much better because
I know this show.
You haven't met Entrapta yet.
Oh, okay.
Entrapta is going to become one of your favorites.
Okay, cool. Well, like we've this show. The aim of this show in the beginning is where this is like the tapas of the Motu universe. We're trying. You know what tapas is? We go to those restaurants. It's just little servings of it's like Greek kind of dips and things like
Oh,
that, and you try
dim
a bit
sum.
of everything.
Dim sum, yes, I got you.
Okay, right. Well, that's what we're doing. That's a long way of going. Basically, we're watching the first few episodes of all the Master Universe shows that have been created. Then we're going to probably go back and look at characters or wherever Jason wants to take us. At any chance, Jason, we can dip back into this show.
Oh, absolutely.
I am on board.
Absolutely. I kind of intend to dip our toes into various aspects of the series, but definitely Princesses of Power is one that we will be revisiting quite a bit. Because,
Yes.
And that I don't even want to like dip in certain episodes around. We got to go in order on this one, especially if
Yeah.
you are being introduced to it the way you are, because I don't want to spoil anything that comes, because it's such a fantastic series from beginning to end. It comes from, you know, awkwardness, kind of like a teenage comedy, except it's like a She-Ra coming of age comedy where all the humor comes from the transformations going back and forth and the people's reaction to it. I personally like that there's no secret identity this time around, that everybody knows Adora is She-Ra.
Yes.
They kind
I
of
do too.
they carry that through all the Masters of the Universe series from here on out. And I guess
Okay.
they figured that worked.
Well, it does in a way, because I think, because, you know, we're what, post 30, 40 years into superhero films and things like that. And, like, even the conceit on that side of the fence is Marvel Universe. I think Peter Parker's the only one who's got a secret identity now.
Peter
Everyone
who?
knows. Yeah, exactly. Everyone's forgotten.
Peter
But,
Parker, was he? I don't know. Was he one of the Eternals? I don't know who that is.
And you know, and you're right, you shouldn't, because it frees up the writing, and it makes She-Ra a far more fun character from a
Yes.
dialogue perspective. Not that I hated the original She-Ra. I liked how stoic she was. She was very Wonder Woman like. She had a
Yes.
lot of grace and a lot of dignity, and a much older, I think, She-Ra in a way. And this She-Ra just seems to be, you know, young and full of energy and not sure. And I love the fact that they're not, even as She-Ra, she's not sure.
Yeah, and I like the fact that she can't really control the powers either, that it's almost too much for her. It's that first scene where she becomes She-Ra and she's glowing, and you're like, wow, that's really cool. And then all of a sudden she just loses it. And I love that. I love
You know what that
it's-
reminded me
yeah.
of? That reminded me of, because I'm super old, of what I used to love about Greatest American Hero.
Oh, believe
TV
it
show
or
about
not, I'm
Exactly.
walking on air.
He didn't know how to
I
fly
never
properly
thought
or
I could
use
be
his
so
powers.
free. You're not that old. Shut up.
But the conceit of that, which I really love, because, you know, you are going on the journey. It's another way the audience can go on the journey. We
Yes.
discover, just like her, what's kind of going on. I love the fact that it's not a hack and slash use with the sword. The sword in many ways is kind of like a magic wand in some ways, which I don't have an issue.
That doesn't always work all the time. Yes.
Doesn't always work all the time. So, yeah. I don't know what more glowing things I've got to say. Some of the things, I didn't really have a lot of things I didn't like about it. Put it this way, I didn't get up and go, all right, well, I'll get a drink and I'll watch episode 2. I just straight away, next
Yeah.
episode. So,
Yeah, you just
which to me is a big thing.
enraptured by the
Normally-
whole thing. Yeah.
And it shouldn't. A 48-year-old man shouldn't be so enthralled by this show, which is not designed for him.
No.
But again, I respect good writing. I really respect good storytelling. And the group of writers, which I believe were all women, that was focused on that. Not that matters either way, but the fact that they've handled this material in a way that previously men-driven, writers of this series would never have gone. So
Right.
I really appreciate they've kind of gone down that pathway. Is the show still going, or is it done?
The show is finished. Yeah, it told its story. It was done. It had a really excellent series finale. Pretty much think about how you think it's going to end and then completely throw that away. It's not going to end that way.
It's not a twist ending or anything.
No twist. Well,
There's not going to
if
be
you-
glasses of water and someone's going to go swing away, Meryl.
No, nothing like that. It's just it's completely different than
That's
what
a
you're
Seinfeld
expecting,
back.
but it's all very organic from the story. It's all developed. None of it's a twist, but if I told you what happened in the finale, you'd be like, "Shut up, it does not."
Yeah.
They do not. He does not. What? But yeah, I love the series. I'm kind of in your same boat. Guy in his 40s. This should not be my favorite Masters of the
No.
Universe series, but it is. Here we are, and it's amazing, and I love it.
You know what also works a lot better? You know, if I was a young person trying to watch this show, thank God there are no commercials.
No, there's no commercials.
Because, you know, you don't have to wait for the next week. You don't have
Yeah.
to worry about, a commercial break or anything else like that. Or you have commercial interests infecting the storytelling. And that's the other thing that should be mentioned. It's because this is Netflix, the way they want to write their story is not inhibited by any moral objections by the sponsor of the show.
No.
Which still
No.
happens on national broadcasting television all the time. It's just free because I don't think if this was run by an NBC or a CBS, most of even what I saw, they would have been challenging the storytelling straight off.
They would have been, and if you think the show is woke now, just wait. Just
But like I
wait.
said, to me, I've always miffed that kind of concept because I'm like, again, I just go back to going Star Trek.
Mhm.
Star Trek. That's my go-to. It's just like, well, it's been happening for 50 years.
Yeah, it's
You know,
it's a
progressive
ridiculous
storytelling.
It's
You
such
know
a
what I mean?
ridiculous, childish criticism
it's-
to say something is woke.
Oh, it's because they only think the only three shows that ever were made were Knight Rider, A-Team, and the Dukes of Hazzard.
Well, don't tell them there was a black guy on the A-Team, or else they're going to start calling it woke.
True. Oh, but they could control him.
Yeah. Don't tell them that
would
Kit
drug
was
him,
black,
remember?
or else they'll start calling that woke.
Mind you, you
gosh.
think about that now. In every episode, they drugged a black man.
Yeah, it's a bit problematic.
It's not great.
But you know what? Nowadays, no one remembers the rest of the A-Team except for B.A. Baracus and Mr.
Oh, yeah.
T. Mr. T.
In
is,
fact, when I think of Mr. T, I actually think of his appearance in cartoons, his show, and things like that. When I visually think, yes.
I think of the cereal. The cereal was delicious.
Yeah, I remember being a kid and being quite perturbed and upset at Mr. T in Rocky 3. Because that wasn't the Mr. T I knew.
No. Mr. T is one of my heroes. I've never met the man, but I would saw off a leg to do it. Not my leg, but somebody's leg.
Yeah, not mine preferably. We'll just find a random
No.
homeless person.
No, what's Joe
No.
doing? Is Joe using both his legs?
Yeah, he does.
Just out of curiosity. He's in Jersey. He's the easiest one I could get to.
That's
I'd
it.
go after Annie, but I think that she'd beat me up.
Yeah, you'd find yourself tied down inside a hyperbolic chamber.
Yeah.
Yeah. With,
Be
with
like a
some
Bond.
lasers, Bond
So-
style, like a Bond villain.
So, Mr. Gaston, you thought you would take my leg. Now I will take your life!
Oh,
I hope
geez.
she's watching. I really do.
I have to get Annie to watch this now. But yeah, if you're wondering who we're talking about our amazing co-host from our other show on this channel, which is Captain Squadron. We talk everything in Star Trek. So
Yes.
you have to check that out. But Jason, the question now is, what's next?
That would be He-Man Revelations, the controversial He-Man. It started out as a mini-series, but now it's got a second season coming. But
Yeah,
it's,
controversially because we have Mr. Pottymouth director
yes,
from the 90s.
and
Kevin
a lot of
Smith.
people felt like it was misleading because they were expecting a He-Man show, and it was actually not a He-Man show. It was a Teela show. But it was not called He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. It was called Masters of the Universe, and she is one of the Masters of the Universe, and so,
Very much.
oh well.
Wow. So I go in now watching this series, knowing this controversy, knowing, and I knew it before you even mentioned it, that Teela is the focus of this show.
Yes.
Is that now? I wonder how I will react to watching this, knowing that pre. So my question is did they just do a poor job of marketing the show? Is that where the controversy comes from? Is the fact that if they had marketed it correctly, that it was Masters of the Universe, and this season we're focusing on Teela, a lot of that toxic fandom would just gone away.
No. I honestly think that Netflix was kind of between a rock and a hard place in that if they had if they marketed it as a Teela show, the fanboys would have gone nuts anyway. They marketed it as a He-Man vehicle, and got people
That's
in.
what I knew it as.
They watched the first few episodes, realized that was not what it was, and got very upsetty spaghetti. Personally, I remember watching the first episode, my jaw hitting the floor, and then thinking, I'm in. I'm in. I want to know what happens next.
Well, it does sound like to me, if they've got a second season, that I could probably, it's going to be a bit more He-Man focused. Correct?
I would think so. I would be surprised if it wasn't. Although, to be honest, I wouldn't mind a focus on the other characters. I wouldn't mind doing an episode with I don't know, Ram Man, or we had lots of Orko in this season, but I'm going blank on the names of all the other masters, because not everybody makes it out of the season alive.
Oh, really?
No,
I don't
they
want to
don't.
know that.
No, they
now
don't.
You kind of upset me a little bit at the thought of that.
Yeah, not everybody
some
makes it
beloved
through.
characters. Without spoiling.
Yes,
Like-
on both
like
sides, yes.
We would have bought the figure kind of character.
I have the figures. I'm actually looking at them right now, and I'm getting
and they're
sad.
not the third or fourth series. Like, you're talking OG,
I'm
the OG characters.
Yeah, there's just off the top of my head, there's a couple of OG characters from the old series. There's a couple of bad guys from the old series, and
Right, wow.
yeah,
this
it's
is, okay,
it's,
so the
it's
stakes are
pretty
high.
brutal. Yeah,
Sounds like the stakes are high.
one
Now-
of my favorite lines from Skeletor is, "Ah, I see you finally used that sword for what it was meant for."
Ooh, shit.
Yes,
Wow. Okay,
Yeah,
now
that's
you've
from
got
the
me
first
really
episode.
locked in.
yeah.
And that's Mark Hamill, I believe.
That is Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill is Skeletor, and to be honest, I don't know if he completely fit the bill, so to speak, because I was just like, that's the Joker, that's not
Yeah,
Skeletor.
that's
But after a while, you accept him, and you're just like, yeah, that's Skeletor. And I've been saying stop imitating Alan Oppenheimer. They do stop imitating Alan Oppenheimer, and here I am complaining about it. So I just need to be quiet. Alan Oppenheimer's actually in the series too. He's Moss Man. So whenever
right.
Moss Man shows up, listen to
why
the voice.
wouldn't he
That's
get
Skeletor.
Why?
He can't do the Skeletor voice anymore, unfortunately. He did a.
Other
think it
times
was a-
for catching up.
Yeah, he's like 95 now.
Yeah.
But he did a they call it the unofficial 50th 80th episode of Masters of the Universe. It was called the Curse of the Three Fears or something like that. It was one you could buy on Amazon Prime, or you can buy it on Amazon Prime now, but he does reprise his role as Skeletor 30 years after the series, and he doesn't sound like Skeletor anymore. He sounds like a very kind old man pretending to be a bad guy. And, it was, I don't want to say disappointing, because as I said, the man's in his 90s, but at the same time, you're just like, that doesn't sound like Skeletor anymore. And, you just can't bring that original voice back. And it's more of a sadness than it is a disappointment. But
Yeah.
I thought it was just amazing that he came back to reprise Skeletor in that way. He also he also recently appeared in the new CGI He-Man. He plays
Right.
He plays King Grayskull.
Well,
And
to
then
be honest with you, that's where I thought we were going next. So
Yep, we got Revelations
timeline's
first.
off. Revelations and then the CGI. Yeah, and it's interesting that they're running dual shows. At the same
It
time.
is one arguably for people who watch the original, and one for the new kids. And the CGI cartoon, it's for kids. It's not for us. It's for kids. But at the same time, they tell some pretty sophisticated stories as well. And I was very happy with the way that this last season ended. I thought it was done very well.
Fantastic. We've certainly got that to look forward to. And wow, the Filmation nostalgia is why I love it.
Yes, it's so wonderful.
She-Ra I liked because it was like, wow, okay, they've taken the strengths of the Filmation He-Man show and they've really amped it up, and they've taken it probably to the limit it could have gone then. And then, like you said, the New Adventures of He-Man, well, look, they took a swing and it was a miss.
Yeah, at least they tried something different.
They tried
I'll
something.
give them that.
And then the 2002, which I loved because I love the character designs, I love the animation. Didn't so much love the over anime flipping swords and some of how sophisticated of a fighter Skeletor was. I think in retrospect, I had a bit of an issue that all of a sudden he was this master martial artist who don't know how that worked because I like the idea of him being
Sniveling
Skeletor.
coward.
He's
Yeah.
not. It's like Darth Vader. He's not. He doesn't have the movement, the fluidity of an Anakin Skywalker.
I kind of like the idea of Skeletor being one of those people who's just like a blowhard with his magic, but the second He-Man shows up with a sword, Skeletor's like, "Nyeh," and he runs away. No, He-Man, no!
Yeah, same here. But yeah, nevertheless, still very liked it very much because wow, they've taken the animation, the style, they gave us origin stories and they built mythology really well. And then this, which it should have been me going, not for me. I get it, I understand it, but not for me.
That's how I started watching the series. I thought, well, it's He-Man. I love He-Man, but I don't think I'm going to enjoy this. And then I was just like, when's the next season coming out? That was really good.
Yeah, see now I've also got the benefit of being able to watch this entire series,
yes,
uninterrupted.
And you suck for that because I had to wait like 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, that's it. And I avoided spoilers on all of it, which is amazing.
Hey,
it ain't over yet. So, but yeah, no.
I could ruin your entire week with one word.
You could ruin this entire show. Spoilers, and it's like, well, we don't need to do the show now. He's seen it. He knows everything.
Adora is She-Ra.
What?
What? No.
No. So yeah, I'm really fascinated to where we go next week. So now we probably should do the research. Is this the same as the other series where we have a 3 part opening for or is it just man?
It
just goes all the way
it
through.
is arc based. I can't remember how many episodes the first season. They split the season up into 2 parts. They called it first and second season, but it wasn't. It was all one season.
Okay,
it was all Teela's journey. I don't remember how many episodes there are. I want to say there's 12 or 13.
Let me go on the Netflix now. Obviously, won't be showing because Netflix.
Come on.
Let's have a look.
Let's see.
I don't want
to... This is.
And we're hearing amazing. Brooklyn Nine-Nine in the background, I think.
Yeah. This is amazingly captivating. Podcasting we're doing right now.
Oh, this is horrible.
It's quite amazing.
It is horrible. So we've got Master of the Universe. I found that one, the new one, which actually I like that.
Okay, so
there
are 10 episodes total. It says there's 2 seasons, but it's 10. It's 10 episode season.
Right. Okay.
Very good.
Well, part 1. They're saying part 1 is 5 episodes, correct?
Yes.
So, and here we are, organising next week's show live on this show. We got to do part 1, correct?
Might as well.
I think so. If Netflix is saying there's a part 1, it's 5 episodes, that's what we'll be doing. So next week, guys, we are going to be looking at part 1, 5 episodes of Master of the Universe Revelation.
Although I challenge you not to continue after 5 episodes because the cliffhanger will have you wanting more.
Right. Okay. Well, there we go. So... is there anything else about this particular show that we didn't? I mean, there's a lot to go into, but I feel like the more that we talk about this show, we could potentially be spoiling things.
Yeah, and I don't want to spoil anything, especially if you haven't watched any of it yet. It's just it's a fascinating journey of friendships and enemy ships and ships and
a lot of stuff going on,
and lots of ships that I'm sure that Seahawk would set on fire.
Yeah. I will. Okay, I will say though, it's just what I also remember thinking when I was watching it. I'm probably tied up with this. Is the fact that when you're kids and you have relationships with friends, you're learning as you're growing up how things work, and I just feel like the show is doing such an important service to kids to lessen anxiety and demystify some of the feelings that you would be having when it comes to friendships and relationships. So if that's what they're getting out of this, then oh my God, what a joy. And as for this old fool, it's just a fun, smart show to watch.
Well, I think it's for all those reasons, it really focuses heavily on interpersonal relationships and healthy ones and unhealthy ones, and it's just watching yourself. What can you do to take care of yourself in a world that doesn't seem like it cares about you, because there are people who care about you. You just need to find them. Although I do not understand how Adora did not know the Horde were evil when the place she lives in is literally called the Fright Zone.
Yeah, well, reference point.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe it was a nickname. She always thought it was just a nickname for the place. I don't know.
Could be. I don't know.
Do you also find it was interesting too now? I thought I was closing the show up. I've got another question now. Castle Grayskull, for the honor of Grayskull, they only mention it a couple of times. She's like, what the hell's Grayskull, basically? And they don't go into it.
They did not have the rights to He-Man. And I think that
They never mention Eternia.
They do mention Eternia. They mention Grayskull. That's it.
Don't even mention the warrior who protects Castle Grayskull.
No, and they come up with a very, I think, ingenious way of explaining why nobody knows and why they've never been visited. So I'm not going to spoil it. It's pretty ingenious, though. Actually, they kind of touch upon it in, I think, the episode Raz, where she goes outside and she says, where did the stars go? Oh, we used to come out here and look at the stars all the time. The Raz episode becomes so important later. It's revisited way down the line. And everything
will be?
Huh?
You know what else will be revisited?
What's that?
This series on this show. So
absolutely,
we'll be back, I think, sooner than later, coming back and re-looking at She-Ra and the Princess of Power.
Absolutely. This is a great show, and I can't wait to revisit every single glorious, wonderful, well-written episode.
All right. Well, until then, I've got my homework to do. Part 1, first 5 episodes of Master of the Universe Revelation coming at you next week. Thank you, as always, to my co-host, the best friend squad himself, Jason. Thank you again, sir.
It is always a pleasure.
And you want to plug away? Where can they find you on the internet?
If you know my name, you can find me, Jason Roy Gaston, at TikTok, online at jasonroygaston.com. Also my Instagram, and I don't know what other socials I've got. I don't even remember anymore.
Yeah, you can find me on this channel and, stalk away. Find me. Try and find me. That's my challenge.
It's like,
all right, guys.
It's like trying to get Lucky the Leprechaun. Except he's Australian and mostly drunk.
Yes.
Your kids will never get me Lucky Charms. Bang, bang, bang.
Right now, we're under lock and guard. This is like The Walking Dead here, except zombies. We have magpies at the moment.
Oh, yes, I've heard.
Those giant black and white birds that swoop you. Terrifying.
Everything in Australia wants to kill you.
Everything, dude. Everything. All right, guys. Take it away, Jason, as we get out of here. We'll see you next week.
For the honor of J Skull.